Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Good evening, people. Now, the topic of today's video is, I can't remember exactly what I called it. I think I said the UK sucks. And the UK really does suck. Those of you who aren't in the UK, yes, we don't have that overt, violent form of racism that they have in America, and I'm very grateful for that. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, however much the UK sucks, I know America sucks more. But I'll tell you this much, yeah, the UK absolutely sucks, and it's getting worse. The difference between the UK and America, in fact, I was just having this discussion with my wife, is someone mentioned, Liz has already mentioned in the chat, okay, about the BAFTA awards, okay? Most of you have probably heard about that, and I think we'll tackle that first of all because I've got those videos loaded up already. And so most of you will know that Delroy, Lindo and Michael B. Jordan were at the BAFTAs, invited to the BAFTAs, obviously probably to win some awards for their excellent movie. Delroy Lindo, I think, has British origins as well. I think he's of Jamaican descent, but he's originally from Britain. So yeah, shout out to Delroy Lindo. Delroy is a very Jamaican name, a very Brit. I'd say of all like the old school Jamaicans I know, Delroy is probably the second most common name after what was the other name? But Delroy is up there with the very common Jamaican names. But anyway, shout out Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan, and they got racially abused on stage. I mean, it's almost bizarre saying it, like it's so friggin' fatiguing being black in this world, man. I'm telling you, man. How can you be an A-lister, go to an supposedly A/B-list award show, televised, one of the biggest award shows, and get racially abused in the most vile way? You know, get racially abused in the most vile way. So for those of you who don't know the story, they went to the award show and someone with Tourette's. Now, Tourette's, many of you are going to ask the question, what the hell is Tourette's? Because if the UK sucks, the UK is a place where they say obesity is a disease. No, it's not. Obesity is a series of choices that you make. It's not a disease, okay? Every day you make a choice to be obese or to not be obese. So obesity aside, they have this disease called Tourette's where people can't help but say the most foul swear words. And apparently Tourette's not only controls the words that you say, it controls the volume that you say them, that you say these words. It changes depending on who the recipient of your insults are. Don't use Tourette's as an excuse to me. Yeah? Because if you got Tourette's, don't be in public spaces or put a friggin' muzzle on or something in it. Do something to control your disability, because I am not hearing it. But anyway, I'm going to play this video from ABC, which kind of outlines everything quite briefly. So let's go. Let me know if you can hear it, by the way, when it's playing by just clicking on one button.
What should have been Britain's big night to celebrate art and culture, with royalty mixing with the Hollywood elite, instead is mired in controversy this morning. The BBC apologising to BAFTA viewers after several obscene outbursts from Tourette's activist John Davidson were heard.
Thank you. Some of you guys are saying one, so I know you can hear it okay again. Now, I paused it here before. I'm going to pause it here again. This guy here, yeah, this no-neck having, very unattractive piece of shit. Oh, you shouldn't say that. Oh, he's got a disability. I ain't really trying to hear all that. I'm not really trying to hear all that. This guy is a horrible human being, and he's a very typical, like, even when I look at him, he just carries that annoying, nasty little phenotype, unapologetic piece of shit. That's what you are. When you think about the excuse, in fact, let me not I'm getting emotional. Let me let it play through, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts after you've kind of got the synopsis of the story.
Heard on a broadcast. Davidson is the inspiration for the movie I Swear, which was nominated for 6 awards and took home the leading actor BAFTA. He was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome at the age of 12. It's a neurological condition that can cause involuntary movements and vocal tics, sometimes involving outbursts of inappropriate language. One such outburst.
Vocal tics, which seems to be a very uniquely British thing. There's no Chinese variant. There's no Chinese virus. No, there's no Europe or Tourette's virus, but there is an English one. Yeah. typical bollocks.
First heard on the broadcast was while Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
A racial slur could be heard while the men presented the award for Best Visual Effects.
I'll play the video next one where actually you can hear the word, because they didn't blank it out, by the way, which is another one of the major issues with this whole situation.
Jordan and Lindo looked startled, but continued on. Host Alan Cumming later asking the audience for their understanding.
You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight. Tourette syndrome is a disability, and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette syndrome has no control over their language. We apologize if you were offended.
So he just explains, this is like, see, so this is what irritates me, yeah? Everything that is taking place here is so quintessentially English. This is everything that you're seeing is so I should say British, because the guy's a Scot. It's so quintessentially British, everything about it. The lack of accountability, the idea that raising awareness is more important than the abuse that you've just hurled at two black men. Racism in the UK doesn't have any value whatsoever. When they admit that something has been racist, and they never will. So for instance, this is not a racist event in the UK. The whole world is looking at this and saying, oh my God, that's so racist, that's horrible. The UK is looking at this and going, oh, I'm glad he's raised awareness for Tourette's. It's a shame that it had to be at the expense of those two American fellows, but he's raising awareness. This is the kind of bollocks that really pisses me off. Think about it on a logical, yeah. This guy has got Tourette's, and this is why I call him a piece of shit, and I'm not going to take it back. If you know you have a condition where you verbally abuse people and say hurtful and nasty and potentially criminal things to people that have the potential of totally destroying them, ruining their self-esteem, making them feel threatened, all of the above, wouldn't you make sure that you avoid being in situations where you're going to meet people in that circumstance? Wouldn't you minimize the likelihood of contact? To give you an actual kind of analogy, imagine if I had physical Tourette's. Forget this verbal Tourette's. Imagine if I had physical Tourette's. Oh, I can't control myself. I involuntarily touch women. Yeah, imagine if I involuntarily grabbed women by the P word or the T's, slap the T's as they're walking past. I can't help it. I've got physical Tourette's. Look, I can't help. I just slap booties when they go past me. Imagine if I had that, yeah? But I found myself every day going to the gym, or God forbid, going to colleges. Yeah, I've got physical Tourette's, but I'm gonna go teach in an all-girls college. You're a piece of shit. Yeah, we can all agree. Someone who has that condition and then surrounds themselves in situations where that can be abused is a piece of shit. So this guy is a piece of shit because he knew that he was gonna say hurtful things. And he didn't apologize afterwards. He's oh, I'm sorry, but I've got Tourette's. Well, raising awareness. Like, you're raising awareness, you stupid asshole. You've just hurt people. Yeah. Imagine if I had, jabby jab stab syndrome. Yeah. Might as well just give everything a syndrome now. I can't help but stab people when I'm in public. And I just decided I was gonna go on the subway and just stab everyone. Oh well, so I'm just raising awareness. I got stab syndrome. Like, what is this, man? What the fact that, and you have British people making this defense. Oh, he's raising awareness. He doesn't owe anyone an apology. People need to know about this disease. What the fuck? This is why I'm saying to you, forget it. With these people, particularly British people, forget it. Forget reaching out to them. Forget kind of like appealing to humanity, sensibility. They don't have any like that. If someone with Tourette's abuses you, punch them in the mouth. then they'll get the picture. We ain't interested. Yeah, we're not interested. If you want to say the N-word, you're getting popped in the lip. That's it. Yeah, that needs to be the comeback for this. That needs to be the approach that we're taking to deal with this stupid, dirty, ugly, fat Scotsman. You know, talking, oh, good Tourette syndrome. No one cares about your stupid Tourette syndrome. Call me the N-word and I'm punching you in the mouth. Otherwise, you should have stayed your stupid ass at home. Don't be around black people saying that word. Really, really simple. Let's watch a couple other videos because I'm fuming, and you guys can probably can probably tell I'm real vexed. Let's check out this guy's video.
You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight.
That's BAFTA Awards host Alan Cumming about an hour and 20 minutes into the ceremony after several outbursts were heard throughout the show.
If you have seen the film I Swear, you will know that film is about the experience of a person with Tourette syndrome.
Now, the British drama, nominated for 6 awards, is based on the life of John Davidson, who was in attendance.
Tourette syndrome is a disability, and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette syndrome has no control over their language. Alan's
statement came after the film's star, Robert Aramayo, won the Rising Star Award.
And tonight, especially, I just want to say that for people living with Tourette's, it's us around them that help define what their experience is. So to quote the film, they need support and understanding.
So why do we need to, they need, everything's about, you know, understanding. Okay, first of all, I don't think people in the UK, no one really had any trouble understanding what Tourette's was. Okay, so you randomly shout swear words every now and then, or you tick and you flick your head or whatever every now and then. Okay, cool, we get it, all right? There's not like, there was no one who's suffering from Tourette's is being oppressed. No one suffering from Tourette's is being assaulted, although now I do feel like assaulting someone, I'm not gonna lie. No one was, there's no persecution towards Tourette's sufferers where we had to be in a situation where we raise awareness, or where the BAFTA Awards would think that it's a good idea to invite someone into the audience who suffers from it. And for some reason as well, here's the funny thing as well, here's Tourette syndrome. Because by the way, I'm a teacher, you guys know, as a teacher, I actually had a kid with Tourette's in one of my classes that I taught. But they used to say their words quietly and kind of like tick and then say words quietly. But I find it funny how this guy with Tourette's decided he was going to shout things at the top of his voice. So not only does his Tourette's affect the things he says because he used the N-word, it also affects the volume, because he could have just said it quietly or this, that, and the other, but he felt the impulse to shout it, and I'm not okay with it. There's not going to be any situation where I'm going to be like, oh no, it's cool, he's got Tourette's, everybody understanding. And also, it's funny how, and this is the UK as well, the N-word, by the way, and being racist to black people in the UK is fine. It's fine. I always find an excuse for it. It's funny how his Tourette's didn't cause him to say anything anti-Semitic. I mean, I'm guessing he didn't. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I would be willing to make a very large wager, in spite of all of the Jewish people that likely made an attendance at the BAFTA, he managed to keep his anti-Semitic Tourette's under wraps. I bet you that's the case. I bet you that's the case. I wonder if there was any paedophilia shouted by this guy. Or did he keep that under wraps as well? Is he just Tourette's about stuff that is safe to say? N-word, P-word, F-word. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting to think about how many parameters and dynamics can affect the outcome of how Tourette's is going to express itself.
I get the timing of Alan's statement, but it came over an hour after John's first and most jarring outburst.
Delroy, Lindo, and Michael B. Jordan.
So you actually hear it in this one, guys. So a little early trigger warning. Okay, you're gonna hear it now.
Yeah, so the Sinners stars came on stage to present Best Special Visual Effects, and decided not to censor what was blurted out from the crowd, because I think that defeats the whole purpose of this.
The first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate the artists who expand.
And yeah, there were a few more outbursts heard throughout the ceremony.
In a place which is very troubled.
We are delighted to be presenting the BAFTA for Supporting Actor this evening.
Variety reports that John eventually left the ceremony on his own accord. He wasn't asked to leave by BAFTA. Two things to say on this. First,
so after he finished abusing loads and loads of people. So this is why I say this guy's a piece of shit as well, yeah? So there's only two situations here. One, I'm comfortable with my condition now. I'm happy to abuse people and make them feel horrible and say things that are deeply and grossly offensive to people, because at least I can be comfortable. So either one, he's a piece of shit because he doesn't care about how his condition affects other people, or two, he thought it was more important to raise awareness than to think about the feelings of others, than to think about the safety of others, than to think about the abuse of others. Both of those scenarios, you're a piece of shit. This is why I'm saying this stupid fat Scottish guy is a piece of shit. I don't care what your condition is. You are a piece of shit. Stay your fat, stupid Scottish ass in Edinburgh. Don't come or leave your house if you can't control that situation. Like, you're just gonna have to deal with it. That is the price of your disability. Your disability is not, I can't control myself, I have involuntary tics, I say things that are deeply offensive. Your disability is, I don't have the ability to conduct myself in public, and therefore I'm going to stay at home. That's your disability. I have to stay at home because I have Tourette's, and if I go outside, I'm going to say things that are deeply offensive to people. Sorry, mate, I don't have Tourette's. You do. Keep that disease in your house. Simple.
First, I think they waited way too long for Alan to make a statement about it. Yeah, it was over an hour. That's without commercials. Over an hour after Michael and Delroy were on stage that he made that statement. So I think they waited too long. And two, while I think there needs to be an understanding of someone who has Tourette's, and that's totally appropriate to have an understanding of it. I do think we
can have an understanding of someone who has Tourette's without having to experience abuse. Yeah, those two things are completely separate. Okay, they could have showed a little scene from his movie. Okay, they could have made him come up stage and then leave very quickly. Okay, asking people to just chill in the same room as someone says the most vile and offensive things to you so that you can raise your understanding of Tourette's. It's like saying, oh, well, he's got, like I said, physical Tourette's or something, and then just letting them molest your child in front of you. Like, what the hell? This is not going to happen. Yeah. If you've got a condition that causes you to do that, this is not the answer to that condition. This has not made me in the slightest bit more sympathetic towards this disease. Okay? Not even in the slightest. Wildflower said his Tourette's didn't cause us to ask for the release the files. Oh man. And also waiting for an hour and then to not even apologize. So this is what we need to do as well as Black people. When we receive racism in the UK, there's never anyone advocating for us. There's never any advocate for you when you're the recipient of racism. People will just gaslight you right in your face. That is very much the UK way. We're going to gaslight you right in your face. They had no one advocating for them. No one came up and said, what just happened? I know that, but that was really awful. Can we all just appreciate the fact that, you know what I mean, these African and these Black men have just been verbally abused in front of everybody in the most horrendous way. And I think they're owed an apology from the award ceremony for allowing this person. Yes, we wanted to raise awareness, but we've made an error of judgment here, and we need to accept that as a consequence. This was not worthwhile. It wasn't a worthwhile trade-off, you know?
Experience of Michael and Delroy was ignored. The fact that they're standing on stage and they hear the N-word blurted out at them, when they're on live TV at an award show, you can see that Delroy is a little taken aback by the moment. So while there was all this empathy and asking for understanding for John in BAFTA's statement or Alan's statement, there seemed to be a real lack of empathy and understanding of what that was just like for Michael and Delroy up on stage.
We apologize if you were offended.
If you were offended, that's rather dismissive. And yeah, everyone should be offended by the use of that word. I don't think the apology really needs to be directed toward.
We apologize if you were offended. That's typical That's a British level apology. Okay, because when you realize that's not really an apology, that's more like, oh, you're a snowflake. Oh, if you're a snowflake and you can't handle a little bit of Tourette's, then okay, we apologize. We apologize if you can't handle being racially abused. That's a very British level apology going on there.
Towards the viewer, I think the apology, and I don't really think it needs to come to Alan. I think it's weird for Alan to have to say it. I think on behalf of BAFTA, you could say we apologize to Mike and Delroy. And I do think that even though he wasn't under control of what he was saying, and a complete empathy for his condition, I do think John needs to make a public apology to Michael and Delroy, and I think he can use this as a real teachable moment, for the public in terms of Tourette's. I think there was a real lack of,
and I bet you he doesn't feel like he needs to apologize. I've got a condition. I've got a condition, just like those, fat people with obesity disease. I've got a condition. I've got like, where there's accountability for everything else apart from situations like this when you've been overtly racist. Oh, I've got a condition. Okay, you got a condition, but your condition causes you to do things that are very, very evil. Yeah, to say evil things. So if you gotta say evil things, you, regardless of if you got a condition, you got to apologize. You must apologize. You have to say, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Let's draw shoulders here in the black community and say, no, we're not having this bollocks, man. It's just enough of this, man.
Empathy and acknowledging the experience of Michael and Delroy going through that up live on stage. What are your thoughts?
I appreciate this guy Graham O'Neill saying yes, a bit of empathy, because this is, well, he's American. I'd be very shocked to hear this from a British person, because it's like this, the lack of empathy for anything. Like, they just don't acknowledge racism in this nation. They will always come up with a million different things before they discuss racism as being the possible reason for something that has taken place, and a slap is a very good cure for many a disorder. I'm telling you right now, it's amazing how many people have just been slapped into good behavior. It works so effectively. I totally agree with you there, Wildflower. Let's just watch this video. One more video on this topic, then we're going to move on to the next topic. So this guy Femi, he's a decent bloke. He's like I think he was an MP or something like that, or if he just does politics. He's an interesting dude. But anyway, let's play it and see what he has to say.
Morning, people. Welcome back to F Politics. Screaming the N-word at an awards ceremony isn't ideal, but I fear it's an opportunity that a lot of us are missing by directing our anger at the wrong place.
Presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here because even if you wanted to argue that when John Davidson's Tourette's syndrome...
And by the way, just gotta say really quickly, do you notice how Delroy Lindo, his eyes lit up, but it wasn't shock. It was like... Yeah, you see that expression that I've got on my face right there, that Delroy Lindo expression. This is called the being black in Britain expression. It's like, really, here as well. It's here, of all places. Like, we're doing this right here. Yeah, that's the expression that Delroy Lindo had on his face. I'm very familiar with it.
Led him to shout the N-word at Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo when they were presenting an award was part of some underlying subconscious racism, then we are talking about racism as a systemic and institutional problem that affects people's subconscious. And so if we're looking for clear evidence of institutional racism at the BAFTAs that night, there are a lot worse guilty parties than the guy with Tourette's syndrome. For example,
and by the way, of course he has underlying racism. Every white Brit does. There's no white Brit alive that doesn't have underlying, underlying racial dislike or racial discomfort. So that wouldn't be surprising at all.
For example, the host's immediate reaction was not to apologize to the two black men who were racially abused on stage. It was to thank the audience for their understanding, prioritizing respectability politics over the actual impact of racism. As my American sister and mutual Shirley pointed out, the fact that the intent may not have been racist doesn't mean we should ignore the fact that the impact on those two men was clearly racist. Michael...
And by the way, that's an argument that has been raised a lot. I'm seeing it when I was going into comments online. People saying, well, he didn't mean it. It wasn't his intention to offend. Since when did someone's intent determine if something was wrong or something was offensive? When did that boil down to intent? I mean, I walk down, I accidentally stab you in the bum. It wasn't my intent to stab you in the bum. Like, what are we doing here? Okay, no one gives a crap what his intent was. His intent is irrespective of the things that he said. And the embarrassment and the shame that these two amazing actors, these two professionals, have had to feel in front of an audience full of peers. Imagine the embarrassment, and no one stood up for them. Once again, when you're black, you advocate for yourself in the UK. That's just the way it goes.
Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were there as part of the Sinner's Entourage, a film specifically highlighting the fight against racism. And while they're on stage at a prestigious awards ceremony, somebody shouts the N-word at them. The fact that the guy with Tourette's didn't mean any harm by it doesn't change the fact that those two men were racially abused on stage while trying to do their job at an important moment in their careers. So the host's response was a failure of basic human decency and part of the institutional racism I was talking about. But it goes beyond the host, because the BBC allowed the N-word to be broadcast completely unedited, but when director Akintola Davies Jr. included within his speech the need to stand up for persecuted minorities and the words "Free Palestine," they cut that. And I want you to hear my...
Isn't that interesting? So they edit out "Free Palestine," but they keep in the N-word. Let's see what he has to say about this.
My point, because this isn't like when the BBC allowed one of their journalists to say the N-word on a broadcast a few years ago and refused to apologize for weeks. Because I'm not saying they should have cut the N-word from the broadcast, because otherwise that would be kind of covering up what went wrong. I'm saying that allowing the N-word to be broadcast unedited means that when they cut the words "Free Palestine," it wasn't about a desire to not cause offense, it was just political censorship. Because this is what Akintola Davies Jr. actually said.
To all those whose parents migrated to obtain a better life for their children, to the economic migrant, the conflict migrant, those under occupation, dictatorship, persecution, and those experiencing genocide, you matter, your stories matter more than ever. Your dreams are an act of resistance. To those watching at home, archive your loved ones, archive your stories, yesterday, today, and forever. For Nigeria, for London, the Congo, Sudan, Free Palestine. Thank you.
Why would they cut that just because he said "Free Palestine"? What an amazing speech. And isn't it just so amazingly British that they cut out the fact that he said "Free Palestine" at the end of that speech? Because that's offensive. And then obviously now we get into the entire conspiracy hole as to who controlled this entire event. Because why would an editing decision be made to cut that very forthright and harmless speech out, but to leave in the abuse, the vile racial abuse that was hurled at probably the two most prominent black male actors of 2025 because of Sinners? They were probably right at the top, Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan. There's certainly something very ritualistic and something very British about that as well. British love to embarrass and to bring to heel any black person who rises above their station, is what you're witnessing with Meghan Markle. Okay, that is all racist. That is all, well, not that you needed me to inform you about that, but if you had any doubt, that is absolutely a racial attack on Meghan Markle. Okay, it's got nothing to do with how she holds her baby bump or her abuse of Harry, which no one's ever witnessed. It's 100% to do with the fact that she's black, and or at least partially black, and rising above her station, and it makes British people feel very uncomfortable to have a black or partially black person in a position of superiority or authority over them. And it's also this kind of like ritualistic thing they do to bring down black people. I always remember very vividly the funeral of Michael Jackson. Okay, when Michael Jackson died, I think the whole world simultaneously was in mourning. It was a very, very sad event. And they had that funeral, which was, I think, televised in most countries worldwide. I remember very vividly the funeral of Michael Jackson because of how utterly disrespectful the British media were from start to finish. They cussed him, they cussed his family throughout the entire broadcast. They made it seem like the most, like it was entirely pageantry, and they were just so deriding and derogatory of this man who had really done nothing but, bless the world with amazing music and, and songs that try to unify people. He had, annually Michael Jackson would release a song that would essentially almost unify the world. That's a very powerful individual there. British don't like that. They'll bring you down, If you have a condition that causes you to abuse people why would you want to go to a public place when you know you're going to say very hurtful things? Why would you want to go to a award ceremony? Is raising awareness more important to you than the trauma that you've just put Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo through? Is raising awareness more important than that? Oh, well, we've got to raise awareness. That's good to know. But you just put them and also the entire Black community, not just in the UK, in America, you've made us feel awful about ourselves. But just because it's raising awareness now, we're supposed to be on board with it. Oh, well, it's much more. I'm sorry, but we're not your little lab rats. Yeah. The Black community are not your little lab rats for you to test your methods of raising awareness. You already had your movie. That was enough. You didn't need to abuse us in public. If the man can't control himself, you stay your ass at home. If you had some kind of physical expression, do you know there's people who are PDF files, yeah? We're also trying to get that diagnosed. They're trying to link it to a gene, and they're also trying to get that diagnosed. So they could say, oh, it's a disease, I can't help myself. You can put names on a lot of different things, but the bottom line is you're verbally abusing people, okay? Whether or not you can or can't help it, okay? And I've seen young people with it. Like I said, I'm a qualified teacher, so I've seen students who allege to have Tourette's, and yes, it does seem very, okay, plausible. Something is going on there. There's still a personal responsibility that you have to not put yourself in a situation like this. That's personal responsibility regardless. You learn to manage your diseases, you learn to manage your disabilities to operate in the real world. What you don't do is go to an award ceremony and racially abuse people. That's a choice. You didn't have to go. You could have stayed at home. You could have walked outside. If you felt the tick building up, you could have exited the room. But no, you want to raise awareness. You want to raise awareness. Screw your awareness. Yeah, I ain't trying to hear it. Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, like Tourette's or no Tourette's, if you call me the N-word, I'm gonna slap you in your mouth. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I ain't gonna take that back.
And this is what they broadcast.
Thank you for nurturing this.
I know there's Black people with Tourette's. I don't care. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yeah. I don't care. Do you understand? I know there's Black people with Tourette's, and I don't care. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? You can have Tourette's. My issue is not whether or not you've got Tourette's. My issue is what you do with your Tourette's. Learn where you should and should not put yourself. Yeah, it's not for us to work out and to understand your situation. Yeah, if you've got a situation where you can't help but fiddle little kids, stay away from playgrounds. Simple. Yeah, there we go. And then no one gets hurt.
And writing this beautiful story. Thank you.
So it is the policy of the BBC to allow verbal attacks against certain races on their broadcasts, but if you verbally oppose attacking certain races, you know, like wiping out Palestinians, then they'll censor that. So this saga gave us all the evidence we need of the kind of institutional racism that we should all be fighting, going right from the BAFTAs host to the BBC executives. Or we can point the finger at a guy with Tourette syndrome. Up to us. Anyway, well done to director Ryan Coogler.
I think we point the finger at both. I really do, because I really do think this vile human being, this Scottish man, I think he made a choice and he decided, I'm just gonna let rip because I need to raise awareness. Well, that's a choice you've made, and you gotta take the consequences of that choice you've made as a grown man. Because as far as I know, Tourette's doesn't affect your cognitive abilities. Okay, you still understand the difference between right and wrong. You still understand when you're hurting other people. That none of that comes into question. So you can't use that as an excuse.
Coogler, who won Best Original Screenplay for Sinners, and Wunmi Mosaku, who won Best Supporting Actress, again for Sinners. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics, so Politics as an FU. Have a great week.